late July. Things are definitely heating up around the metro area of Minnesota. We got a lot of fun things happening. People are taking vacations. They're out there getting the kids involved. I'm seeing skiers. I'm seeing a lot of activity on the lakes. And a few things I wanted to touch on just outside of actual what we're using to catch our fish in the last week, but just some of the outside elements, the things we don't think about that can sometimes impact the bite. And that happens to do with the people, the boaters, all that sort of stuff. I spent a lot of time on lakes like Minnetonka. I've been on Forest Lake in this last week. Some heavy pressured lakes, and what sometimes we don't take into account is what the boaters do to change the pattern of fishing. So on lakes like Minnetonka, Forest Lake, White Bear Lake, some of the Chisago Chain Lakes, Pryor Lake, all aspects of the metro, on those busy lakes, when you get a lot of boaters to run around and scurry up the fish, that can change fishing patterns. So you read a book and it tells you to fish a classic point for big bass, let's say. Doesn't mean they're going to be there even when they should if you have a lot of pressure. Sometimes you see those fish get to some non-traditional patterns, like even in the hot summer months, they move shallow when they shouldn't. You're taught to catch bass deep. So rule of thumb, if you get some days where you're going to get out there on heavy pressure days by boaters, by jet skiers, by pleasure people, by skiers, by wakeboarders, whatever it might be, think outside the box in some of your fishing opportunities and maybe try some stuff that might be a little not as typical. Get inside dock lines, go to some of the shallow bays, do some of those sorts of things. So with that being said, what have we been fishing for this last week? It's still been a lot of bass, walleyes, pike, panfish on deep weed lines. We've been catching a lot of bass on jig worms and drop shots and that sort of stuff. We've been catching some on chatterbaits. We had a really good bite actually on Forest Lake in that part of town on a crankbait. Throwing deep crankbaits that go 10 to 16 feet of water on that outside weed line. That's also catching your pike too. So again, stay focused on the outside weed line, the deeper stuff. That's where I think the biggest schools of fish are. If you have thick, heavy weeds up shallower, you can get some fish there too. Last net we actually got some fish shallow on a sandbar as the sun was going down. Those bass will move up. Again, feeding patterns, maybe not the best place to go at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but when the sun's going down or the sun's coming up, those fish will move shallow to feed. So follow some of those patterns. They will make some small movements throughout the day depending on the depth conditions and what the weather's doing. As far as what we're fishing, we've been catching a lot of panfish lately on just tube jigs. Pretty aggressive presentation. This happens just to be a 32nd ounce head, and I got just a Mr. Twister tube on there. A variety of different options out there. You're pitching them, they fish a little slower. You can pitch them in pockets, you can fish them on deep weed lines. I can fish a 6.5 foot rod with 4-pound panfish vicious line and a 1000 series type Shimano reel, and I can just cover water. An easy way to catch panfish. It also catches quite a few bass. If you're targeting the bass, again, we've been fishing the jig worms. That's been really hot. That's 8th to 3/16 ounce head, depending on the depth conditions. We haven't had a lot of wind this last week, so we've been getting away with lighter jigs. You want to fish the lightest jig possible. That still allows you to make contact with the bottom and stay in that bottom third of the water column. Those things are very important. So a lot of fish to be caught. We've been out there chasing them, but fishing them hard. We got some nice, beautiful weather coming ahead of us still. If the 10-day forecast is correct, you know, the weatherman sometimes likes to lie just like anglers on the length of fish, but maybe the forecast that's coming. So get out there, have some fun, chase some fish, cover some water. If you're looking for just a way to spend the day, get some Lindy rigs, pull some live bait on the weed lines. I see a lot of anglers catching fish that way. Trolling crankbaits, another easy way just to put some rods in rod holders, sit there and have a great conversation with some friends and cover water. Otherwise, get out there, have some fun. If you're going to be in the north part of the cities, I'd probably focus heavily on some of your bluegill and crappie stuff and your bass stuff. That's been good in the Chisago chain. The walleye bite's kind of hit or miss, or it's been kind of commingled with your bass. Minnetonka, there's been a good walleye bite right away in the morning. Same thing on the west side of town towards Clearwater and that sort of stuff. I'm hearing of good walleye bites right when the sun's coming up. Otherwise, get out there, have some fun. Put the sunscreen on, dress appropriately, have a cooler full of ice and water, stay hydrated. Those are important things that sometimes we don't think about. Make sure your health, make that a priority too when you're out there fishing. It's not just about catching fish. You don't want to get sick or have any problems either. So get out there, have fun with the family. This is going to conclude probably our fishing reports for the month of July. Next time we talk, it'll be that first week of August. I don't expect the patterns to change a ton, but we'll see. We're going to get out there and fish a handful of times in a variety of lakes, and we'll catch you in a week and see if anything's changed. Otherwise, get out there, have some fun, catch some fish.